Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. Nice to see some new faces, some other faces that we haven't seen in a while, so it's really nice to see everyone. Okay, this week is Parshas Vayishlach, and we're going to be talking about confrontations. Yeah, confrontations. Any of you have confrontations in your life? Never.
All the time.
So we're actually going to learn how to meet a confrontation, how to do it, how to confront someone or a situation, a challenge, or an actual confrontation with an individual, as we have in this week's Parsha. How do you do it? What should you do? What shouldn't you do? What should you keep in mind? Interestingly, this week's Parsha also shows us how when you try to run away from a confrontation that is supposed to be, it creates negative results. We spoke last week about Dinah, and we said that Yaakov hid his daughter Dinah because he was scared that Esav should see her, because he knew she was so beautiful that he would want her. And so he hid her in a box when he approached him, which is in the end part of this week's Parsha. He hid her in a box so Esav shouldn't be able to see her and want her. And we learned from that that was something wrong. That was something wrong because Dinah had the power and the ability of changing Esav. She could have transformed Esav, this wicked individual. What his father couldn't do and his mother couldn't do, she could have done with her feminine abilities. She could have done that. She was strong enough to do it, and she would have done it. And yet he didn't do it. And he was punished, we say, by that. Rashi explains he was punished that he didn't want Esav to get her, so instead, Chamor, the son of Shechem, actually took her, saw her, and raped her. And that's when the brothers, fought against Shechem and fought against them in order to get her back. And what's interesting there is the fact that, when you read the Torah portion, it almost seems like Dinah went out to explore the girls, to see what the girls of the city were like. And that's when Shechem saw her, and that's when he took her. That's when Chamor saw her and took her. Yet, when you look deeper into the verses, you see that that's not the case. And this was actually revealed by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who talks about the role of woman and revolutionized the role of woman. Because when you read the portion, what it seems like Dinah was going out. She was too much of this outgoing kind of personality. Seeing the women of the land, she went to explore the land. They're in this new place. She's looking around. She's trying to befriend the women, and that's wrong because she's going out. She should be staying as a daughter of a king. It says, Kvuda bas melech penima, the daughter of the king. The honor of a daughter of the king is her inwardness, her tzniut, her modesty. And here she's just out there, like out on the street, out there talking and conversing with these people. And that was like the traditional view of how people always saw it. Oh, Dinah went out, so look at what happened, kind of blaming the victim. And the Rebbe turns it completely on its head. By looking closely at the words of the commentaries, which is Rashi, the foremost commentary, who talks about Dinah going out. And Rashi says, Dinah went out just like her mother went out. Like mother, like daughter. Dinah was like Leah, who also went out, who also had this outgoing nature, who, as we mentioned last week, was destined to marry Esav, because she had the power of transforming Esav, but she didn't want it. She would cry. We said her eyes were very weak from all the crying that she did, because she heard people saying, oh, the younger one's going to marry the younger one, Rachel will marry Yaakov, and the older one, Leah, will marry Esav. And she would cry and cry and cry so that she would not have this fate. And we learned from that prayer creates a situation where she was answered first, even before her sister, how she married Yaakov. She was the first one to marry him. So we see that Dinah was like her mother in that she went out, this outgoingness that she had. This was a quality that Leah had, and Leah could have used that quality to transform Esav, but she didn't want to. Dinah too had that quality, and she could have used it to transform Esav, and she would have been willing to, but Yaakov did not let. Yaakov hid her. So her outgoingness was like her mother. What does it mean, like her mother? And Rashi cites a passage that says how her mother, Leah, also went out to greet Yaakov. When she went out to greet Yaakov, when she had traded places with Rachel, when Yaakov was supposed to go to Rachel's tent, and her son brought her these dudaim, these fertility leaves that Reuven brought her, and she exchanged the leaves, and she says, I'm giving you the leaves. It's my turn to be with Yaakov tonight. Really, it's your turn, but because I'm giving you this, now it's my turn. So Rashi says there that Leah went out to greet Yaakov to tell him that it was his time to spend with her that night. And we learned from that one of the Shvatim, I think it was Yisachar, was conceived that night. So Leah's going out to meet her husband was a very positive thing. Yisachar, who's a tremendous Torah scholar amongst the Shvatim, amongst the tribes, was conceived that night because of her going out. So if Rashi is trying to say that Dinah was outgoing like her mother in a negative sense, he would not have brought this passage talking about the positive way that Leah went out to greet her husband and conceived one of the tribes of Israel on that night. So from this we learn that Rashi is saying that really Dinah's going out was a very positive thing. She had the qualities of going out. She had these outgoing qualities of going out, staying true to who she was, but going out to create change. And it's interesting that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gives us this perspective on women, because until now, until the Rebbe notes how the Rashi is saying this, people would think that Leah went out, so she kind of was punished because she went out. She was too outgoing. She was too much of this woman who's all, out there. She's not modest. And the Rebbe says, no, that's not what modesty is. Modesty, kavuda bas melech panima, the honor of the daughter of the king is inward, does not mean that she has to stay indoors all day long. That's not what it means. It means that the honor of the daughter of the king is a certain quality of her strength. Her strength is this inward strength, this strength to create boundaries, parameters, the strength to influence those in her sphere, not by fighting them, but by showing them the beauty of what she has. That is the strength of the woman, and that's the strength that a woman can use. That doesn't mean that a woman should not go out and influence those on the outside, but she should use her feminine qualities in influencing the outside, meaning she should not use so often we see women who are out there in such a masculine way. And the Rebbe's saying, you don't have to imitate the masculine. Be who you are. Be the feminine. Be the way that you are. Do everything that you want to do, but do it in this feminine way. And Dinah had those powers. She could have influenced Esav. Her father couldn't. Her father was this big tzaddik, Yitzchak. He was this great righteous man, but he couldn't achieve with Esav what this girl, this young woman, Dinah, could have done through her feminine qualities of persuasiveness and through her strength as a Jewish woman. So it's just interesting when you take the Jewish woman and you hold her back from achieving what she should be doing in a realm of influence, in a realm of positive influence, in the right kind of influence. When you suffocate her, when you stop her when you squelch her from actually using her abilities in a positive way, you find the repercussions is something very negative. That's when the opposite of positivity happens, as we see with Dinah, the most horrific thing, and the most horrific incident in the Torah. And yet, when we allow the Jewish woman to express herself in that beautifully feminine way that she has of influencing those in her sphere, not through aggression, not through force, but through the power of illumination, through the power of teaching, through the power of conveying it in her positive way, that's when we really see the tremendous power of the Jewish woman. So it's interesting that this whole perspective is brought out by the Rebbe, who of course And I wasn't even planning on talking about this now. This is a preface for this week's Parsha. We see this is brought out by the Rebbe, by him saying and giving women the role and telling them, you can be out there, you can influence others, you can go out there. And we see shluchim shluchos. It's a partnership. Whenever you see a shliach, there's always a shlucha. I won't even say behind him, but at his side, helping and being so instrumental in carrying out their mission. And the Rebbe didn't want to send anyone out until they were married. I know my son-in-law was like in the Bahamas for a long time, and he was never like in the Bahamas until he actually married my daughter to actually go there. So the Rebbe didn't want to send people unless there was this partnership where there's a husband and a wife team so that they can together use all of their spheres of influence. But in this role, the Rebbe was very adamant that women play a vital role and a crucial role in transforming our world. And we know that it's the women who are going to transform our world today to the time period of Mashiach. It's B'schus Nashim Tzidkanios, in the merit of righteous women, Mashiach is going to come here through our powers of persuasion, through our powers of illumination, through our powers of education, in the way that we uniquely can do it. We can change the world. We will be changing the world. So we can't squelch that ability and saying, oh, woman inside, get the women inside or get the women behind closed doors. No, it's the women who go out there in a positive way, in a way like Dina could have, in a tzniut way, in a modest way, but in a way that can really create change in the world. So that's where we see a confrontation that was stopped from happening, a confrontation that should have happened, in the sense, not so much in a confrontation, but in Dina going out there and changing Esav, that was stopped and that created disastrous effects. But we also see in this week's Torah portion, the beginning of the portion, a confrontation that did take place in a positive way, in a way that it should have taken place and was successful, at least to some degree. I thought that was okay. So what do we see? We see that this week's Parsha begins with Yaakov meeting his long-lost brother, Esav. He had been told by his mother, Rivka, she had sent messengers to say that Esav, his hatred has somewhat subsided. He's no longer so angry because Yaakov had stolen the blessings from him. She says, Esav is no longer so ready to kill you. His anger his hatred has somewhat subsided. It's time for you now to come home. And Yaakov was on his way home, journeying back home, when he is told that Esav is ready to meet him. And he has to prepare for this confrontation. How is he going to meet this brother who previously wanted to kill him? So he's about to meet him, and in this meeting, we have to understand this is not just, on a simple level, it's that Yaakov is meeting Esav. Yaakov is trying to get back to his home. He's trying to live in peace, to raise his family. He has a big family, to build up his wealth, to lead a normal life in his hometown. That's from a simple level what we see Yaakov is doing. And he's trying to get Esav to let him live in peace. But on a deeper level, we see something much more significant taking place here. And what is it that's taking place here? When we think back to the blessings of Yaakov and Esav and what was going on there in that whole situation, we can understand what is going on now when Yaakov meets Esav. And this is a confrontation that's of cosmic proportion. When we weren't here that week, so we didn't actually have a class that week, but when Rivka saw that Yitzchak was ready to bless Esav instead of Yaakov, what did she do? She switched them. She tells Yaakov, go dress up in Esav's clothes, go and dress up, and you get the blessing from Yitzchak. Now, obviously, something deeper is going on here. What was Yitzchak's and Rivka's perspective on their children? These were both of their children, Yaakov and Esav. And we say that Rivka favored Yaakov And Yitzchak, it says, seems to favor Esav. So what was it that Yitzchak saw about Esav that he felt he's the one that should get the blessing? So when Yitzchak looked at Esav, what did he see? What did he see in him? A doting son. Good. So was it just bribery? Like he was just, because this kid is doting on me, so that's why I'll give him the blessings? What did he see in terms of qualities that Esav had? Para Adam, which is a really wild individual, right? So why would he want to give blessings to this wild individual? No, Esav. Esav was Para. Yaakov was Yoshev Ohalim. He was this man who sits in the tent. He studies. He's an Ish Tam. He's this perfect person that's always sitting, always learning, always doing the right thing. And Esav's this wild fellow who's always running around, always doing all kinds of crazy things. So why is Yitzchak favoring Esav?
Maybe he wanted to tame him.
He wanted to tame him, but so he asked for special food. But why did he favor him that he's going to give him the blessings? He's the oldest son. He saw his potential. What was the potential? We have some teachers in this room, right? Right? Okay. Sometimes you see this kid who is so brilliant, but so can't sit still, right?
It's
awesome. Awesome. Well, how is it awesome?
It is, because the wonder of the way that they learn is so different.
Yes.
That it's amazing to watch the process.
Exactly. Okay, so he sees this kid who has all this energy, this raw energy, this single-minded focus, this cunning, right? This cunning. And he says, imagine if we could harness all that potential, that fire, right? Imagine if we could harness it all as someone who's going to spread goodness. Imagine that kid who's full of all this energy. Some of these kids could actually end up being the smartest business people, billionaires, because they have all this energy and all this creativity and all this shrewdness, right? So that was Yitzchak's idea. Let me try to harness his potential so that he can actually take this message that I have, this godly message, and teach it to the world in a way that the world is going to accept it. You know, when you have a message and you want to teach it to the world, you need PR. You need good PR, right? And some of that PR is not so straight, right? You want to do advertisements to get people to buy something. You can't just say, like, honestly, exactly what it is. Well, you know, the house that I'm trying to sell, really the basement's a little cold, it's damp, right? You don't say these things. It's gorgeous. It's got so much room. It's so spacious. It's so... You know, you stress all the positive, which is being a little shrewd. You're not just saying everything as it is. So this was Yitzchak's view, that I can take this single-mindedness of Esav, this cunning of Esav, this energy, this passion that he has, take that and harness it. Now Rivka, on the other hand, looked at Esav and Yitzchak and Yaakov, and she said, hold on, you might, in theory, be trying to take Esav, this raw ball of energy, and bring him to good. But in practicality, he's not interested. He's not interested in your Torah. He's not interested in this godly mission. He's not interested in that. He's interested in his passions, not in taking those passions and channeling them productively. He's interested in the raw materialism, not in the spirituality. And she was able, as a woman, she had the ability to perceive beyond that. And she says, Yaakov, on the other hand, he's got the characteristics and the qualities that's needed. And that's, by the way, why she didn't just tell Yitzchak, you know, let's sit down over coffee and we'll discuss who our two sons are and I'm going to enlighten you. She rather showed him. She said, I'm going to show you what Yaakov is able to do. You think he's just someone who's hiding and learning in Torah and he's such a straight person. Look at what he could do. he can actually dress up in the clothes of Esav.
That's what I was. Yeah, they tricked Yitzchak.
He tricked.
So he will not recognize that it was not Yaakov, but it was Esau.
Exactly.
And he said, Yitzchak said, that I think the voice is
The voice of Yaakov.
but the hands are
the hands of Esav. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's a deeper message of that? Those words. He's saying, "Hey, hold on. Look what Yaakov is able to do. I thought he's this like really straight guy, in the box kind of person who doesn't have any PR skills, who doesn't have any shrewdness. But look, he's able to actually dress up as Esav. He's actually able to use the clothing of Esav. He's able to use the ways of the world, the trickery of the world, in order to accomplish what needs to be done." And when Yitzchak saw that, he said, "Oh, this is the one that really needs that needs to get the blessing. This is the one that has that ability to spread the message, to teach the godly message, because he is the good guy, he is the pure guy, but he also has the ability of using the methodology that's needed in this world, the clothing of this world."
Excuse me. I remember when I taught in Israel, it was many years ago, the attitude was different. They said that Rivka tricked Yitzchak, and he was first upset about it. That's how I remember that we told the kids. Yeah,
So when we
it's
learn it
different.
as an adult, we see
Yeah.
like deeper at what's really
Exactly.
going on in the
Yeah.
story.
Yes.
So as Yaakov is now meeting his brother, this brother Esav, he's realizing, hold on, Esav does have some capabilities that I don't have. He does have strengths that I can use, that we can use together. Those qualities that Yitzchak saw in Esav, that ability to just be so brute and so single-minded and so passionate and energetic in convincing people, if we could channel that for positivity, imagine the results. Imagine what we have there. So he's meeting Esav with the thought that maybe now Esav is ready to be my partner. Esav's ready to partner with me. Together, imagine this team that they would form. Imagine what kind of impact, influence they could have on this world in creating a godly world, in teaching the godly message to everyone around them. So he's hoping this as he's ready to confront Esav. But he realizes, as we're going to see, that the world was not ready yet. Esav was not yet ready. Esav, it says, in the end of times, in the times of Mashiach, Esav will be ready to then use his potential, his raw potential, and channel it and harness it for the good. But at this point in time, he hasn't yet been ready to do that. He's not yet ready. And he's really ready to kill Yaakov. Yaakov represents morality. Esav represents the opposite of morality, and he's ready to attack that morality. He's not ready to be that partner, that brother. That will come many, many years later at the end of exile. Now, in the time of redemption, Esav is ready to listen, ready to hear the message. But at this point in time, he was not yet. So he is ready to meet Esav, and this is the confrontation that he's hoping could become a partnership, but he has to evaluate what is the situation. And in what he's doing to prepare for this confrontation, we see how we can do what we can prepare for our own confrontations. How do we see this? So the first thing that he does is, it says Yaakov sends messengers to Esav. He hears that Esav is coming to greet him. He sends messengers to Esav to see what's going to be with Esav. Let's see what state of mind he's in. Let's assess the situation. The commentaries say that Yaakov sends these messengers were actually, it says he sends Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. He sends Malachim, which could mean messengers, or it could mean angels. And the people that he sends were angels, according to the commentaries, that were dressed up like human beings, because he didn't know what was the state of Esav. Let me send these messengers to assess what state Esav is in. And so these messengers were going to assess, what is Esav? What state of mind is he? How does he feel? How's his emotional inclination towards Yaakov? So in sending these messengers, these angels, we learn, what is an angel? An angel is somebody who doesn't have any emotion. An angel is just there to do their job, right? They're not a corporal being. They're not like a human being. We are full of emotion, full of passion. That's not what an angel is. An angel has their job to do, and they're there to do it. He's sending these angels to assess the situation. When we are confronted with a situation that we don't know how it's going to come, is this person going to be really horrible to me, or can I make peace with them? We don't know. First step is assess. Take a step back. Don't send your emotions into this situation. Hold off your emotions. Don't send your whole passion into it. Sometimes we get so aggravated when we know that we're going to meet somebody who we've had a history with, and we say, oh, forget it. We just give up before we even are ready to meet them. We say, they're probably going to do this and this and this, or just like they always did. And we go into the dance of a relationship that we've always done. And what we learn from Yaakov is, don't do that. Assess the situation, but assess it without all the baggage, without all the emotions, without all that emotional baggage that you have in this situation. Leave it behind. He sends angels. He sends these angels that have no emotional baggage to just kind of assess the situation without all that heat in it, right? Which is a very smart way of looking at a situation. We also see that when we are confronted with a challenge or a concealment, this is what Esav represents. He represents this concealment of God. We need to assess the situation, but without putting ourselves into the situation, without being too invested. In other words, sometimes when we are looking at this concealment, this temptation, or this thing that's going to bring us down, in order to assess it, we can't be fully invested in it. We have to be like a little aloof. Okay, so you have a situation that you're not sure where to send your child to a school, and you're trying to assess the situation. Assess it from a position of without the baggage, without the emotional baggage, but without also putting yourself too much into the situation, so you can look at it from a perspective, a higher perspective, and evaluate it from that perspective. Okay, he then sends these messengers to him, and he says that the messengers should tell Esav, Im Lavan Garti, I have just lived with Lavan, with my mother's brother. I've lived with him for many years. And it is there that I acquired a lot. I married, I got my wives, I acquired a lot of sheep and flock and riches. And now I'm coming back to my homeland. So in his starting sentence, in these messengers that he's sending, he says, Im Lavan Garti, I have lived with Lavan. And the word Garti for lived is actually a word that means someone who's just like passing through, kind of like a tourist. I've lived with Lavan means like as a foreigner. I wasn't like a citizen there, I was like a foreigner there. And he's giving the message to him that I lived with Lavan, but I never was like really established there, because the word Garti also is the same word as Taryag, which is the numerical equivalent of 613. What's 613? Mitzvot. So he's giving the message that I lived with Lavan, but as a foreigner, because I kept there all 613 mitzvot. I didn't live with Lavan as Lavan's a swindler, he's a cheat. That wasn't the way I lived with him. I lived with him keeping all 613 mitzvot. And in saying that, he's trying to tell him that I'm not immersed in the materialism like Lavan is. You know, Lavan is full of materialism. That wasn't what I was doing. I was still being a godly person. And this is a message for us when we confront the world, when we confront non-Jews in the world. We often shy away from our Judaism. We often are scared to represent who we are, to say what we do. And this is a message for us. Don't be scared. The first thing that you should say is be proud of who you are. I kept the mitzvot. You know, sometimes we'll meet someone and we'll be afraid to say, well, I'm not working on Shabbat. We were just at a concert from Dudu Fisher, and he was talking about how when he was supposed to get this big position of Les Miserables on Broadway, he was very nervous about saying, I don't work on Shabbat. You know, in the entertainment industry, that's like a killer. I don't work on Shabbat, and not only do I not work on Shabbat, but I don't work on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot, all these days, right? But when we are strong about who we are, and we are proud of who we are, there's a pride that we exude. It's mirrored back at us. When we feel proud of our heritage and we can say strongly, this is who we are as the Jewish people, that's when the non-Jewish world can accept us. And the Rebbe always used to say, like, if we would only stand strong as the state of Israel, as the land of Israel, if we would say to the nations of the world, this is our land because this was given to us by God, not by the Declaration of Independence, not by the UN, but this is our land given to us by God. This is God-given land. Then if we would have that pride in who we are, then the nations of the world would listen and wouldn't want to take it away from us as they are. Because if it's given by us by a man or by nations, then we can also take it away as nations. But if this is our God-given land, this is who we are, if we're strong about who we are, that makes us obviously the people of God, and that makes it, this is what we are. So the first part he established is, I've lived with Lavan, but I wasn't someone who was into materialism. I kept the 613 mitzvot. I am a Jew, and I'm a proud Jew. This is who I am. He then also says to him, I have shor, bakar, and chamor, which is, I have shor, I have cattle, which is the strong cattle like the ox. I've acquired ox. I've acquired flocks, which is sheep. And I've acquired a donkey. And in saying this, he's telling Esav another message. What's the difference between an ox and a sheep?
One is stronger than the other.
Exactly. The ox is strong. It represents strength. And that's why he starts with, I have lots of ox. He's saying to Esav, I have strength. Don't think I'm not strong. I'm a strong person. And I'm ready to be strong. When I need to be strong, I'm going to be strong. At the same time, though, I have sheep, which represents humility. I'm not strong on my own accord. I'm strong because God wants me to be strong. Meaning, I'm not strong because in a brazen kind of way. I'm not going to stoop to your methods. But my strength comes from my godliness, from attaching myself to God. In other words, a person who thinks when you're meeting this evil, you have to say, I have that strength, and I'm going to express that strength. I'm going to be strong when I need to be strong. But my strength is not my own. It's not my arrogance. It's not because I think I'm strong. My strength is because of what I represent, because of the godliness that I represent. And that's a very different strength than just the strength of being a brute strength. This is a strength that's based on goodness. This is a strength that's based on righteousness, I'm fighting you for the things that you are going to, I'm ready to fight you. I'm ready to battle with you if you're doing something wrong, if you're doing something immoral and against God, because I'm standing up for what God wants us to do. And finally, he says, I also have a donkey, and with this he's alluding to, as we spoke about, how in the time of Mashiach, it says that the Mashiach will come on a donkey, that in the time of Mashiach, Esav will actually join forces with Yaakov. So he's saying to him, come join forces with me. Let's be together. Let's join forces, and we don't need to fight. We don't need to have that strength. We can be forces together in conquering this world. However, the messengers come back to him and say, we came to Esav. We came to Esav. We came to your brother, and he's Esav. We came to your brother. You think that he's your brother. And we told him your message, everything that you said. We came to him. But really, he's still Esav. You were hoping he's your brother. You were hoping you could join forces with him, but you can't. He's your brother. So the first step in meeting a confrontation is to assess the situation, to show your strength, but your strength at the same time is full of humility in knowing that you're doing not because you just want to prove your strength, but strength in doing what God wants of you. When he sees that Esav is coming, they say to the messengers say to Yaakov, he's not your brother, he's Esav, and he's preparing to meet you with 400 men ready to go to war with you. At that point, Yaakov has to now prepare in the second mode of what he's doing. And how does he prepare? So he prepares in 3 ways. Number 1, he prepares for battle. It says he divided the camp into 2 camps, and he prepared an actual battle plan of how they're going to fight Esav. Number 2, he prepares presents, gifts to give him. All these flocks and all these gifts that he was going to give to Esav in order to appease him. And number 3, he prepares through prayer. He prays. He prays to God, and he says, God, please, I am small from all the goodness that you've given me, but please help me now in this situation. I feel humbled from all the good that you've given me, and I don't deserve any more, but nevertheless, please help me in this situation. So these are the 3 ways that he prepares to meet Esav. And these 3 ways are really very different, right, from one another. Battle is aggression. You're ready to fight, right? Presence, you're appeasing him. You're trying to give appeasement to him. And prayer is completely different in the sense that it has nothing to do with the other person, but you're turning to another means. You're turning to God. You're turning to spirituality, to godliness, and you're completely not, dealing with this physical situation, but you're dealing in a spiritual realm. So these are the 3 ways that he prepares himself. And really, these are the 3 ways that we need to prepare ourselves when we're confronting a situation. When you are dealing with someone or something, and you don't know how to deal with this person, so you need to be prepared first of all. Conciliation? Can I send presents? Can we somehow compromise? Can we somehow find a path of unity where we can get along together? Can I somehow make them feel like they're my friends? Can I somehow make them feel like they can join forces with me? Can we reconcile with one another? But at the same time as you're ready to reconcile, you need to know where to draw your line. What are your red lines? What are those areas where I'm not ready to compromise in? Sure, we can be reconciled, but I'm not ready to compromise on my morals. For my morals, for my standards, for what I know is and believe is true and real and so important, for that, I'm ready to go to battle. I'm ready to fight. And through it all, though, there's also this prayer. I prepare myself and do whatever I can do. And we need to prepare ourselves to do whatever we physically can do, whatever effort we can put into a situation, we need to put that in. But at the same time, we need to realize that everything is orchestrated from God. I need to put in my effort, but ultimately it's God who's going to help us. Okay, so that is how we confront a situation. And the time is running away. Okay, that is how we confront a situation. We see when he actually finally does meet Esav, what happens? It says Esav, he gets all the presents. He sends these presents in front of him, and finally he meets Esav. And at that point, it says Esav hugs him and kisses him. And Rashi on the word that he kisses him explains that there's two explanations. One say there's two different opinions on this. One opinion is that he wholeheartedly kissed him, and the other opinion is he didn't wholeheartedly kiss him. He kissed him, but it wasn't full. It wasn't with all of what he was. And really, this is the stages of Esav in the cosmic picture of the world. Esav finally coming. We have all these years where the Esavs of the world hated the Jews and they fought against the Jews, and all those stages we've gone through it throughout exile. And yet we're coming to the time period of Mashiach, and it's only in the time period of Mashiach where Esav finally reconciles with Yaakov, where the nations of the world finally recognize that the Jewish people are God's people, and they're ready to reconcile with the message of God, the message of the Torah, and be at peace with them. But it takes a long, long time. And it's then that Yaakov says to Esav says, come, join with me. And he says, you go ahead to Seir, which is where Esav lived, and we'll come there soon. I'm traveling with little children, with flocks. We can't go nearly as fast as you go. You go ahead and we'll meet with you there eventually. But I can't go too fast because the children are tender, the flocks are tender. If I go too fast, it will endanger them. And the commentators say, when did Yaakov actually go to Seir? He doesn't. He doesn't end up going to Seir. But this is talking about in the time period of Mashiach, when Yaakov will finally meet up with Esav, in the sense that they're going to join forces, and Esav will realize that the godly message that Yaakov was trying to teach the world is the right message. But that only happens in the time period of Mashiach. And in order to get there, though, Yaakov says, I'm coming slowly. It's going to be a long trek. This exile has been a very long trek. And you could look at it as like, the express train that goes from one place to the other. It goes very fast, right? But it leaves all the people along the way. They can't get onto the express train. And then you have those other trains that are not the express trains. They're still going from point A to point B, but they're stopping along the way to pick up all the people. And that's what Yaakov is saying. I have to pick up all the people, all the Jewish people, all the non-Jewish people along the way to get us to that place of Mashiach. We have a long trek to go, but everyone is coming. So there's a lot of refinement that needs to take place in the world, but the refinement is going to happen because everyone is coming. I'm not taking the express train. It could have happened then at that moment. Yaakov and Esav meeting, that could have been Mashiach, but the world was not ready for it. But when the world is finally ready, all the people are coming along, and the refinement is going to take place throughout this world. And that is really the time period that we await now. So what I'd like to talk about now is, in our own situations in life, we often confront an Esav. And that confrontation, when we confront an Esav, could be a divine concealment where we feel a challenge in our lives. It could be a person who is just really like, you just feel like at total odds with that person, and you feel that that person is very antagonistic to who you are and what you represent. How do you meet these people? How do you meet these challenges? How do you meet these confrontations in your life? And can we learn from the steps that Yaakov took in meeting Esav in how we can confront our own challenges in our own lives? So that's a big question, right? Yes. I'm going to stop this now.